Police officers in South Carolina are finding themselves in the spotlight today because of a comprehensive joint investigation from 2014 to 2016 that found officers were systematically seizing cash and property from people they stopped or pulled over. It's called civil asset forfeiture. And guess what? It's all legal. According to the investigation by the Greenville News and Anderson Independent Mail, officers walked away with some $17 million. In many cases, the people being pulled over were black, poor, and not even guilty of any crime. Joining us now to discuss, investigative journalist Ben Swann. All right, Ben, great to see you as always. Now, we've covered these types of stories in the past, but how is it that South Carolina officers have made off with $17 million in just the span of 2 years?
Yeah, it's an incredible story. Unfortunately, it's not, as you said, a news story, nor is it kind of focused on just one geographical location. This is a nationwide problem, and we've been talking about this for years. So specifically in South Carolina, I think what's raising some alarms is the sheer amount of money, $17 million, because it's a very large amount when you add up the totality of all these seizures, but also the fact that so many of the people who are being targeted here are low-income blacks, and specifically black males who are being targeted the most there in South Carolina. And in this age of Black Lives Matter, I think that there's going to be a lot of media attention focused on this for good reason. But let's not make any mistake here. This is a national problem that knows no color. It is an abuse of power, and it is, quite candidly, simply state-supported theft.
Ben, how would you characterize this? Would you characterize this as like a systematic, institutionalized system to target the poor and to target minorities?
No, not to target minorities. It is a system that has been set up that essentially allows for law enforcement across the country to fund their budgets, to create line items in their budgets, and to receive all kinds of gadgets and technology, new television sets, new computers, new vehicles, simply by stealing them from the public. And the loophole is essentially this. You do not, and you mentioned this in the lead up here, you do not have to be convicted of a crime, nor do you even have to be charged with the crime in most cases in order for those law enforcement agencies to seize your property. If you have cash on you and it's a large amount, they say it's suspicious and they can seize it. If you're found with any trace of drugs at all, even if it's not a large number, if it's a personal supply, they can say, oh, because you have those drugs on you, the loophole is this. You might have acquired this vehicle. You might have acquired the property inside of your home through the drug trade. Therefore, we can seize anything that we find here. That is the loophole that's being used. I think this story will help to hopefully close that. Now,
Ben, specifically in South Carolina, they have a history of racial discrimination.
Yes.
And when it comes to civil asset forfeitures, officers are known to target mainly those of low income and go to historically black neighborhoods. So why hasn't anything really been done to rule out this type of policing, make it illegal?
Well, I think it's very simple. If you go to wealthier suburban neighborhoods, you're going to have more outcry from people. You're going to end up pulling over attorneys who are going to challenge this in the courts. You're going to, seize property from people who can fight back. But when you have a group, specifically black men, who are the most focused on group here in South Carolina, I think you have a group that is already has a mindset understanding that they are going to be systematically targeted for a number of different reasons. They're going to be targeted, the stop and frisk policies that have been instituted across the country. That targets mostly black men and men of minority status. And so I think what we see here is that these groups that have been traditionally targeted almost expect to be targeted, and they also expect that the courts don't care about what happens to them and that the systems don't care about what happens to them. So they become the easy target. And I think law enforcement, recognizing that, focuses on them, again, as an easy target.
So, Ben, let me get this straight. So if I'm poor, I don't know, I get pulled over in South Carolina and my money, my property are taken, how difficult is it going to be for me to get my stuff back? What's the actual process? Does it mean I got to spend time and money, and perhaps if I'm poor, I don't have that kind of money?
Well, right. You don't have time or money to do this, first of all. And again, this is not just South Carolina. In most states in the country, if you are pulled over and officers seize your property, and by the way, they can do it for a number of reasons. It doesn't even have to be that you have drugs on you. There's a guy in Iowa who was pulled over simply because he had cash on him. When the officers stopped the car, they had a dog that sniffed, and the dogs can smell cash as well. And so they seized about $30,000 from this guy. He had no drugs on him, but they said it was suspicious that he had a large amount of cash. He's probably a drug dealer. So here's the problem, that once this has been seized, in most cases, in virtually every state in the country, it is not the responsibility or the legal responsibility of the seizing agency to prove that they were right in taking your stuff. It is up to you as the individual from whom it was taken to hire a lawyer, to go to court, and to prove that they wrongfully took your stuff,
right,
which is completely backwards. And in a lot of cases, you don't even have to be charged with the crime. So we pulled you over, we thought you were committing the crime, we found this stuff, we've taken it, you're not charged with anything, you've simply been robbed. And a few states, including in Minnesota, I know some of the folks there who were with the Liberty Caucus there who have fought against this, and they got the laws changed there to say that you at least, the burden is now on the state to say we can prove why we took this stuff. But in most states, that's still not the case.
Right. All right, Ben, we got to leave it right there. There's going to be more stories like this to discuss in the future, I have a feeling. Thank you, as always, for spending a few minutes of your day with us today. Ben Swann.
Manila, thanks.
Hey YouTube, thanks for checking out our channel. We hope you enjoyed the video. We have tons of content for you just like this. For more of RT America's one-of-a-kind news and analysis, be sure to subscribe and never stop questioning more.